Bob, for whatever it's worth, your face is in real dark, so it's hard for me to read your lips. Fortunately, we have closed captions.
All right, we're live.
Okay, all right. Let's just, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order then. And this is the Park Board meeting for, gosh, it's April 6th, 2021. And let's do a roll call. We have, let's see, Bob here, Steve.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm here, and it looks like Frankie, are you there? I see her screen facing the ceiling.
She's there without her mic on.
Yep, there she's coming, bringing it down. Can you hear us, Frankie? You could turn your mic on. There you go.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know how to get the picture in.
Can you put your screen, move your screen forward or backward so we can see your face?
No, that's not it. It's just not coming.
Because I see the lights in your room.
Is there something covering your camera, Frankie?
No. No, I see all you. I see everybody's picture but mine.
Well, maybe we'll get it figured out. At least we can hear you. And it looks like Paul, hello. Dave, Sammy, Jim. And I thought I saw Rachel on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and does anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second? I'll second it. All in favor, Bob?
Aye.
Frankie? Did we lose her again? We lost her again. Steve?
Aye.
And Rita? Aye. And Frankie? We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Aye.
Thank you. And approval of minutes from the last meeting. Bob, second it? I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Frankie. We'll vote on it, Bob. Aye. Steve?
Aye.
Frankie?
Aye.
And Rita, aye. All right, and that moves us along to committee reports for the golf report. Paul?
Actually, Rita, I'm going to jump in here, Rita, because I put the two special event applications up on top of the agenda as we've got both of the applicants online just for their time. And so Jim and Michelle Miller are up first with their Music in the Park application. And so I see Jim on the screen. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jim. As just a little bit of background on this, just to let everyone know, the idea here is that Jim and Michelle would just be busking in the park, similar to what we approved last summer for Joe Pollock and friends. And so as a function of the park board, we have administrative control over Harbor Park. You all would give permission to use the space. And then Jim and Michelle would need to take that permission to City Hall and also apply for a peddler's permit in order to collect fees, busking with the suitcase open type of idea. And I did a little work on the event threshold for COVID planning and talked to a few of my colleagues and peers in the pandemic group and the public health. And we've decided that busking, singular musicians busking, is not considered an event that would trigger a COVID-19 preparedness plan and that sort of extra planning for some of these bigger events and events that congregate people around a stage. For example, if it was a band on a stage with a seated audience, that would certainly be an event that requires COVID planning. But for individual musicians requesting use of space to busk, that has been deemed not an event that would trigger a COVID-19 preparedness plan.
The only thing I would say about that is that the musicians should probably let folks know to stand 6 feet apart and recommend masks, although they'll be outside, so that's less of an issue.
Yeah, I think, in this modern age, we were all used to masks and distance, and that's implied, yes. And obviously, like last year when we saw this with Joe and friends, like there was, I think, plenty of room down there for folks to space out and grab a rock or a picnic table and keep that distance going. And so
people were really good about it.
Yeah.
They did their own distancing.
Yeah, and so I'll turn it over to Jim now if you just want to introduce yourself and give a little background on your request.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jim Miller. I see faces I recognize. Maybe some of you recognize me. Michelle and I have been playing in the county for 14 years now as a duo, and both of us had our own bands. But the motive here, we have children, and they would not, it would be one or the other. Michelle loves to go down and literally just fiddle. So she'd wear a mask and play her fiddle, Scottish and Irish stuff. And I would probably do singer-songwriter stuff. So just really mostly we love music, and we've chose still now with the pandemic. I have been offered numerous gigs with my band and stuff, and we're not willing to go to a space like yet. Whereas we felt that Harbor Park with the breeze and open air, and much like Joe, we would kind of put a tape line down and say, don't come any closer than this to us, and please respect each other and mask if you wish, and that kind of stuff. So not even really knowing how frequently this would happen. It might only happen once for her and once for me, but we wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up, and that everyone would enjoy it and appreciate us versus be a nuisance or get in trouble. So that's primarily it. When I play by myself, I do, John Prine, Gordon Lightfoot, Bob Dylan kind of stuff. And then, like I said, Michelle loves to play Scottish and Irish fiddle and does a really great job. So that's kind of it, I guess. Like I said, we would never, we have Luke. I don't know if anybody knows Luke from school, or Luke is 18 and has special needs. So we don't, we haven't been to town in a year and 2 months other than groceries. So
I can't believe he's already 18, Jim. Wow.
Pardon me?
I can't believe he's already 18.
He's 18. He's sitting over there staring at me, waving at me right now. So, and then James has turned 10. So again, one of us would always be home with the kids. The next, one of us would try to go in, and weather permitting and a beautiful day kind of thing. So really, I'll stop chit-chatting. That was it, really, to just get approved. Go ahead, Steve.
If nobody has any objection to the application, I would move approval.
I'll second that.
I have some comments to make based on other musicians who have approached me for this similar request.
Okay.
I know there's been a couple. I don't have their applications in hand yet, but there's been, several, let's say a couple musicians right now that are also considering the same idea as far as busking in Harbor Park. If and when those applications come before us, we will review those, likely in May. But the idea of scheduling comes up, and the coordinating the schedule, and just so everybody's talking out loud about it, that is the park office and our staff, do not want to be involved in booking and who's playing when. This was the conversation years ago when we had music in the park. And at the time, the Grand Marais Music Collaborative, a local nonprofit group, stepped in and said, we'll handle the schedule. And so I haven't heard from that group yet. I'm not sure how active they are and if they're able to do that this summer, but I have talked amongst the musicians, and I believe there's a general goodwill attitude of like, we'll all make it work, like that everybody knows everybody and we can all take turns.
That's
a good, has the city thought about doing any of the scheduling when they apply for their permits, or do you put the dates down when they apply for their permits with the city and they keep track of it, or no? Not
so much. Not on this. As we see, our special event app tonight is just covers the whole summer. The same for the peddler's permit. I don't believe it has. I mean, you can buy like a 3-day permit, or you can buy an all-year permit, and I'm sure they'll go all year. And the schedule is vague. It's obviously, in the hands of the musicians right now to work it out amongst themselves.
Okay. That's something that we'd take a shot at. Do you mind if I ask who brought it up to you, Dave? Or is that
I'll keep that under my hat.
got it? Okay. All right. I was just kind of making sure that I had contact information for whoever, whatever. So okay.
I'll be yeah, it'll obviously once if and when these come through, we'll be sure to share everybody's contact. I can say that Boyd Blomberg has reached out, and his concept is a bit broader. It is that idea of like a scheduled music in the park series of concerts, series of musicians that would be, amplified and promoted and produced, and that bump would be the schedule of, or he would run that. It would be like a noontime series. Again, this is all just conceptual, but to me, that would maybe qualify more of like an event that Bump needs to spend some more time talking, thinking about COVID. He's, I think, going to reach out to the Visit Cook County group and get their thoughts on events and event funding. And if it becomes more of a structured series of concerts in the park through a local, music, agent or production, we'll certainly look at that. We'll have that application before us in May and make those considerations and like I say, try to fit everybody in based on this goodwill system of sharing.
Okay, that sounds great.
So if there are any conflicts, then Rita's going to be the one who's going to handle the manager?
No, but I know someone in City Hall who's maybe helpful. Hayden could do it.
I'll bring that up to him and see if he'll do that.
No, I mean, I know I'm very familiar with these musicians as well, and we don't want to run the schedule. That doesn't mean I won't be actively like reaching out and coordinating with folks too. Like I think this is a pretty small town, and we can make this pretty simple.
Cool.
Yep, that would be nice.
Was my motion seconded?
I seconded it. Yes.
Okay.
And we have Bob. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Frankie?
Her mic's off.
Well, Frankie, your mic's off. We're voting on the motion for the music by Jim and Michelle Miller.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And Steve was a
Aye.
aye. Rita's an aye. The ayes have it.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, you guys. We'll move forward. So then, Dave, I understand then the next step is to go to the city. Is that correct?
That's right, Jim. That's right. Yep. The City Hall is the keeper of the peddler's permits.
Got it. That'll be my next stop. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it very
Thank you.
much.
We look forward to hearing your music. It's been a while.
We'll give it a good shot. All right. Be well. Be
Take
safe.
care.
All right.
Thanks,
Take
Jim.
care, you guys. See you, Patrick.
And
Whoops,
Patrick,
slow
do we have
down.
Rachel on there?
Bye-bye. What was that?
Do we have Rachel on there?
She said she had microphone issues, so I sent her a link to resolve that or the phone number to call in.
Okay. So do you want to just move on to the golf report while we're waiting?
I'm fine either way, Rita. That I see in the chat box, Rachel said she apologizes, can't seem to quite get the audio connected. Please let me know if you have any questions arise regarding our event request, wishing us well. It's a very simple request for a very worthy event. You see it coming up this month in what would be the campground. And this is the only clarifier here is that they were looking for use of, I think, the picnic pavilion down here in the campground, not at Harbor Park. That was one of the exceptions to note on the special event application, right? They're requesting the campground, and then they fill in the rec park under specific area. And I reached out to Rachel last week on that, confirmed that it is in fact the rec park, and that it's very likely the picnic pavilion here down, the open pavilion down on the harbor that they're intending to use for a vigil on the 20th of April in the evening at 6 p.m. A small crowd and a very comprehensive COVID plan makes this event, I think, very easy to approve.
Okay, and it's a maximum of 30 people?
Yeah, I think that's their estimate. Yeah.
Okay.
Might be 31 if we all showed.
Yeah, so
All
you may proceed as you wish. I feel we needn't wait for Rachel.
Okay. Does anyone want to motion to pass that use of the rec park for the vigil
Bob
on?
just moved it. I'll move.
Okay,
I'll
seconded.
second it.
All right, and let's vote on it. Frankie? We're voting on whether or not to let them use the rec park on the 20th of April.
There
There.
it is.
Okay.
I
Is
vote
that-
yes. Yes.
Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Aye.
Marita, aye. Okay. That is approved then. Moving on to the golf report. You got to turn your mic on.
Paul.
Turn your mic on, Paul. Microphone.
There you go.
Here we go. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. So touring the course, the greens came through really good. Pretty much the snow is off a lot of the course. It's way early, at least way earlier than the last two seasons. Still, there was snow on like fairway number 8 and down into green number 4 up that hillside. I'm going to be up there on Thursday going through the course again. I'm guessing that it's going to be, we're having some rain here. I'm guessing that's going to probably take most of it out. But anyway, we're early, and so we're kind of, I'm putting, staff is coming back in like the 19th. We're looking at, possibly opening the 1st of May. So that's, almost 3 weeks early from last year. Let's see what else we had. We've got a program that we're going to be installing. It's part of Lightspeed, and it's a reservation program for tee times and those sort of things. We're and that's new. They'll be directing us and training us to go through that course. So that'll be beneficial as far as, marketing, getting a lot of information, and booking tee times. Let's see, that's pretty much what's new. Do you have any questions about what's going on, or?
Just a couple of things, Paul. Emily tells me that you guys are playing phone tag about their date for the weekend of July 11th and 12th for maybe having that Y golf tournament. You should know that she's out of the office on Wednesdays.
Yeah, I've left some messages there, and she hasn't been back in contact with me. So I'll be up there. Like I said, I'll be coming up this week and going through the course. I'll be basically up there all the time the following week. So I'll just try to make an appointment to step in and see what she's got in mind. As far as the timing of it, I'm not sure that the dates that she had proposed, I'm not sure that would be a go. That's like pretty much the busiest time that we have for public golf, the weekend after the 4th. So, but we'll meet on that and see what we can come up with. Yeah.
Did we get the new golf carts, Paul?
Well, no, those are in the works yet. They're having some trouble getting some transaxles, so I'm talking to their representative. He's kind of keeping me informed, but they're they're going to be a little bit late getting those in, but we've got 3 of those on order. So we'll be expecting those in. I'm thinking probably somewhere in late May. So I would have liked to have them sooner, of course, but it's kind of out of my control.
Right.
I wonder if we might not put some kind of announcement in either on Boreal or in the newspaper or wherever it might be useful, the city website, telling residents of the city that there's this deal waiting for them for greens fees and memberships. Because I don't think most people who live here know about it yet.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with a $1,400 program.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, you can probably do all of what I just suggested for nothing.
Yeah, no, I was just making a joke about the stimulus money, but so we're waiting on the carts. Those will be coming in. Let's see that's pretty much it. I mean, the course is going to be in good shape. Looking at the greens, and the temperatures right now they seem to be above. We're kind of finishing up a nice stretch of weather here. Looking into the next 10 days or so, it's going to be, moderate, pretty much, above freezing most of the time. So we're really far ahead. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's see the other point that we had talked about, Dave and I had touched on before, was about there was a proposal for some Frisbee Golf on the property.
Mm-hmm.
And we had kind of looking at that with the buffer zones that we have to be away from the golf course tees and greens and things like that. I'm not sure if it's going to be a go. There just doesn't seem like a lot of feasible room to do that project out there.
Paul, did you and the proposer take a walk through the woods on that already, or?
Well, I set my buffer zone, and when you look at, I had not physically walked it, but when you put the buffer zone on there, and you're looking at the area map, there's just it really takes out a lot of the property that could be used, and there's a lot of low wetland out there that's in that grid. So it's just, I don't think it's going to be a feasible site.
If I'm hopeful that we can find a way to make it work without endangering anybody from golf balls flying off the course, or I suppose endangering anybody from just going their direction. If he decides to come up and pursue it, I would be glad to walk the property with him and you, if you were available, and see if we can, if it makes any sense at all.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I can do that again too, just to confirm the wetlands out there. But we've had some dry season. It's been, we had a dry fall, fairly dry summer last year. It's dry right now. I mean, probably be a good time. Probably be a good time to get in there and look. But just as far as how much I have to have buffered away from those zones, really, there just doesn't seem to be a lot to work with.
Has anyone been in contact with him?
I haven't talked to Adam since last late fall, early winter, when we had that proposal on the tables. The last we were in touch with Adam, so he's been patient. He hasn't contacted us. I did list the disc golf course under the capital improvement planning, as a way to talk about this as well, as like, is it even a priority? Maybe is another way to approach this proposal, right? We've got to make it a priority first, and then if it is, begin to look at feasible locations. However, the feasibility of this golf area is getting more and more suspect, I believe, with the idea of a buffer and not a lot of, usable dry land left. Again, we can confirm all this on site, but let's also confirm that we're, considering a disc golf course a priority, even though financially it's low, or it's, seems reasonably priced for what we would have to invest, but the resources and the ongoing maintenance and all that is a consideration. To me, access is an issue up there, parking, even if we were to squeeze in a little 3 or 4 or 5 acre course, there's no built access to it, and that would be expensive, I think. And whether or not we get into permitting with the county on wetlands would be a real deal breaker. So right now, Paul and I are both feeling like, yeah, let's confirm we really support this as a priority. And if so, it's pretty certain it's not going to fit at the golf course.
Wasn't there some other alternatives that were brought up?
Well, Sawtooth Bluffs, yes. So Sawtooth Bluffs, the county city land across the road on the old Ski Hill Road is sort of county land up above the towers, but then it's city land down below on the slope and where the water tower and all that is now. That has been bundled into a Sawtooth Bluffs project. That's also on the priority list tonight. And it's a joint venture between the county and the city. There's been master planning and regional significance talk a couple years ago. That property was submitted for regional significant designation, similar to the rec park, through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Association. And those folks hold the key to legacy funding. In order to get in on this extra 3/8% legacy money, you need to be designated regionally significant as a park. Sawtooth Bluffs rated highly for significance. However, it was missing the master plan, which was completed by the city and the county in a joint planning effort. That master plan included a disc golf course. It included a dog park and bike trails and hiking trails and all the goodies of a nature area. So yes, we do feel like Sawtooth Bluffs is the right location for some of these outdoor amenities. However, it's not able to be immediately developed. Same problems there with access and parking. And I believe the city and the county are still in a prioritization game of that property, and it being, I think, very low on the county's priority and not quite apparent for the city either. And so tonight would be the night for us to go into that as well. Is it a priority? Should we really push this through? We've had requests from the dog group for the dog park. Now we've got the disc golf. The user groups certainly want to see this go in, but the powers that be are, we just can't go and start developing this summer up there.
It seems to me that what we need to have before we spend too much time and energy on the question of money or trying to get the county to go along is somebody to have a plan. Do we spend money to plan that? Does the county, does the city?
The master plan is done. I'm sorry, Steve, I was talking over you, but the plan is there is a master plan done, a complete, 50-page document. I can send you the link. I think it's on the city's website. It's on the county's website, and it's now, I believe, 2 years old, but it's still done. And yet, what's missing, what isn't done, is the joint powers agreement between the city and the county for management of the land and for management of the plan, because it's two different property owners, that being the county. And they own the largest bulk. They own a 640 acre section. And then the city owns a couple hundred acres on the front slope. And there's no governing joint powers board yet for that property. That's what's missing.
Dave, would it be smart to send the master plan to this Adam guy who wants to do this golf thing and to the dog park people?
They've seen it. They know of it.
Have they seen it?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
But it's and they know that it's a few years out. That's what's caused the immediate, well, in the meantime, where else could we put it that you're ready now? It's kind of what we're up against.
Gotcha. So we can further discuss it in the capital improvements when you get to that. Paul, did you have anything else for the golf report?
No, I guess I don't.
Anybody else have any questions for Paul?
Is the organizer of the various golf leagues coming back again this year to do that?
Dan, I haven't heard from Dan. I guess everything's a little bit early. I'm going to be reaching out to him and seeing where he's at. he's in Florida, and then he kind of rambles around, I think Carolina or something, and then he comes in. So he's a real golfer. Yeah, I'll be touching base with Dan and finding out what's going on there.
We would dearly miss him if he didn't have his replacement named.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything in the air about that from Dan. So
he's probably going to come back. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
I just one last comment to Steve's point about marketing the discount and the spring opening and the passes. We'll be sure to get ads out, at the end of the month here. We can get in the May Northern Wilds perhaps, and the newsletters and all that. We'll definitely do a little PR and marketing around the course opening, the great deals on golf we offer.
Yeah, good.
That's something I didn't even know about. So I guess that's a neat deal. So maybe there'll be people that see it on Facebook or the radio station or wherever. That's nice.
We can put a continuing ad on Boreal for no cost at all, can't we? Or very minimal cost?
Yeah, we'll get it up there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Paul.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Paul.
See you later.
City Council, Craig's not here. So let's move on to the Parks report.
All right, thanks, Rita. So I sent out the capital planning, in the packet and with the email last Friday. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review that. And then there was a further today just sent out like the day of Parks report that we'll touch on after we get through the capital planning exercise. But yeah, so park capital planning annual exercise, we skipped it last spring due to COVID. And so now we're back looking at our priorities. And this is very concept level tonight. I just want to make everyone aware we're just in that dreaming and wish list type of phase right now. We don't have prices attached to these projects. We don't have this scheduled as a real concrete capital improvement plan. Of course, we'd have to include schedules and pricing. So the purpose of tonight is more of a, what do we feel is most important, right? Like what projects would we like to see accomplished in the next 2 to 5 years? You can see our list from 2 years ago and really I would say some good progress on some of these items, particularly the Parkside Public Access Project. That's the boat launch down with the DNR at the Dog Pound area. That's moved ahead nicely. It's beginning construction this season. And really most of that is taking care of itself with DNR funding and state funding for the actual breakwater and the parking lot. That's all separately funded and full steam ahead. The only missing pieces there are the ability for us to improve the zone outside of the DNR's project. We talked about that group 1 corner in the past, adding new sites to the corner there where there's the pine trees and the old substation of the chain link fence. That's what is talking about possible additional sites on that corner. And then if we wanted public art or benches or, additional amenities down at the end of the road there, trails, I think kind of come up under a separate category of trail development. But that's the Parkside Access Project. The only real expenses and park park plans inside of that, I think, would be the site additions at the corner of Group 1. Do you want me to just quickly go through all these?
Yes.
Thanks. Ask questions as I go. The landing in the community connection corner, we've been talking about quite a bit recently with City Council. We got that report from Craig last month that with the highway construction going in this summer, now is the time to really figure out what that landing is going to look like. 2 years ago, it was still a concept. It's the idea of a deck and a steps down to the paved trail in that corner at the folk school where the little timber frame bridge is. Turns out that's a very busy corner. Like we found out last month, there's a water main line there. And right now the engineers and the designers are working around that, trying to come up with a suitable scale for the landing to be reasonably priced and not too big of an impact on that water line. And so that is it's kind of a phase 2 piece of the community connection corner, where we did the bridge and the stormwater ponds and the switchback paved trail in 2013. And at that time, we wanted a little deck and some steps up in the corner, but we were going to wait till the highway was coming in to make that all integrated. So now here we are 8 years later, the highway's coming in. We still have the landing on our list as a priority. Any questions on the landing?
Dave, do you have an idea of the cost?
So when we first looked at it with CJ Fernandez, the landscape architect who conceptualized the steps and the stonework, and then there was an arbor, an artistic George Morrison themed arbor added into the mix. I believe that all came in at around $240,000 in 2018 dollars. So it was definitely a 6-figure deal. Let's say $250,000 was this very rough, I think, or unengineered concept. CJ didn't, he had some good numbers on what real stone costs, for example, that, it'd be like $80,000 to use real stone on the footings. The Morrison Arbor, I think, was another $75,000. Most of the expenses in the concrete work and the footings and the construction that would entail. What wasn't included in that price, though, was the movement of the water line and the movement of the utilities. And so that is what we're trying to get a better understanding of right now with the engineers and the utility work. The plans are not priced according to the complete project if the water line needs to be moved, nor are they priced in like 2021 pricing. And we've got a lot of input there. I'm almost sure the engineers and designers are going to move the landing to make it low impact on that water line, and that might scale it down. It might become a smaller space and obviously a smaller price. But let's say roughly 250 right now.
What was did we ever get a figure on what was the donation amount for that? That was a big donation for Memorial, right?
No. There was no. The Morrison family would not, I believe, be contributing. There's like a request to use the image. Perhaps the other way around, where we would have to pay for the rights for the Morrison art. But there is a grant, I believe, like Mary Somnus from the EDA had secured a IRRB. I forget the name of the grant itself, but I believe she had like $50,000 from the grant, from a regional grant that's in for this sort of infrastructure, scenic improvements. And I would have to check with Mary on that. We're going to accept that money and apply it towards the Highway 61 project, because there's more than just this connection piece that the city would be funding. Okay. We're doing light poles and bike racks and kiosks and all that sort of business up and down the highway. So there's grant funding, but not a donation that would take care of this.
And I assume that's like a decking with wood, or is the park responsible for maintaining it, or?
It's vague right now, Rita. The original concept was concrete, stamped colored concrete as the deck, or as the landing itself, as the flat space would be stamped concrete. It would integrate in with the bike trail / sidewalk that's running right by there in the MnDOT right of way. And so there was a kind of 2 different colored concrete schemes to add some flair to the surface there, but it's concrete. There was some bigger benching that was hardwood or like ipe, tropical wood for benching for very, very low maintenance. I believe the Morrison Arbor was spec to that similar like hard tropical wood, low maintenance considerations. But again, this project's been a bit on the back burner. We don't have current pricing or current design, and so, but we want to, feel we should reaffirm our commitment and continue forward, because as I say, they're already working on that.
Okay, sounds good.
So that's the landing. Number 3 is ongoing site upgrades to high value sites. Once we confirmed this several years ago, we really went to work on some of the monthlies, especially that were up to the prime rate. You can see kind of on the back of the document how It's been a few years, but in 2017, we did 47 upgrades on the high value sites. We added another 7 in 2018. And so we've been chipping away on that in the last 4 or 5 years. We've taken care of almost all of the high value, premium rate, big 50 amp, needing 50 amp because of their size. All those sites have been taken care of, but this is ongoing. This is stuff is wearing out, and we'll continue to upgrade power in phases. The second piece of this will be more significant, adding sewers to electric water sites. Similar to what we did back in 2011, we took 20 really nice sites down here on the corner across from the picnic pavilion and converted them from just electric water to electric water sewer. That's a little bit more expensive, roughly $5,000 per site. And so that we've visioned for out west, like to the west of the ball field parking lot area. There's a bank of sites that, like where the Radio Waves Music Festival sets up, and they're big sites. They're currently just electric water, but there's a good block of like 15 or 20 sites to the west of Bathhouse 4, across from the ball field area, that are, I think, very well poised for adding sewers. No plans yet, but just with the idea that that's a priority. Number 4, Bathhouse 3 rebuild keeps making the list, even though we keep getting by with what we have. This is an interesting situation of money and investing, and what a modern bathhouse would set us back. We are, tough to admit, like $1 million is the reality of these bathhouses. And yeah, there's no payback on that. It's the cost of doing business, but we don't get negative reviews on Bathhouse 3. We don't feel a lot of pressure right now to replace Bathhouse 3. It's old, but it's clean, and we've kept up on new counters and sinks, and we're trying to do the best with what we've got, and we do a pretty good job of maintaining it. We painted the floors. We do everything to it's very serviceable, and it's one of those items that it's a priority. I just don't know where. And because it's so expensive, it should stay on the list.
Yeah, the campers really
High up, maybe you're suggesting.
their bathrooms are. They really comment on that.
That they're okay, right? That they're clean.
They're clean.
Yeah.
They're some of the best they've been in. I hear that a lot.
And that's a tribute to staff, to my cleaners and our staff. They really keep old bathhouses clean, and you're right. That's like sort of keeping the pressure off to have to replace.
That's a big priority for campers. So
Number 1.
that's ours are doing well. I think it's good there,
but Bathhouse 3, it's certainly the busy overnight zone. It's out there south of the rec hall, and so it's in that busy tenters, and it is certainly like Bathhouse 4, where it's the busy one, and it's a bit on the small side these days, and it's getting old. It's 30 some years old, and so I just want to keep it on the radar, but keep in mind it's $1 million deal. Or more. I suppose the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets.
This year it'd be real expensive, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's on the master plan though as a redo, so that is an honoring of that plan as well. And then finally, the paving the needy roads. That goes without saying. That's ongoing, and that's been a kind of a $15,000 every other year type of operation. Hopefully, with the parking lot and the boat launch coming through, with pavement, we can get some good deals on pavement when they're doing that. The main road itself, 8th Avenue, will certainly be repaved after the impacts of the boat launch construction. And we've even been in touch with the DNR on funding for that. They have state park paving funding that they have offered up, because the project is, the boat launch project is impacting our road. It's pretty likely we can get some grant money for the pavement of the 8th Avenue, but we want to continue to look at other roads. And so that's our current list of 5. It can move. We can move things around. I would say no particular order on any of this.
With the things that have been identified as priorities from 2019, and I gather you're suggesting that rebuild bathhouse number 3 should drop to the very bottom of the list until further notice.
Yeah, or just continue that idea of no particular order.
But I do like the idea of connecting the new trail that's coming up the road over the river there with our facilities in some way. I don't know what that entails, but maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, you're talking the bike trail, Steve, the Gitchigami Trail?
Yeah, the bike trail, the connecting Sweetheart Bluff and Parkside access and the community connection and the big trail the state's doing.
Well, okay, thanks. So onto the Rec Park Master Plan visions. The trail development from the master plan is really talking about internal trails. And yeah, it's like a walking trail from the community connection corner, over at the marina now. Folks are funneled into the park under the bridge. But then it's sort of like, oh, now where do we go? You just kind of walk down that front road past the sites and down to the dog pound area, and it's unstructured. You can certainly stroll around the shore right now, but there's no like a boardwalk or a lake walk type of trail that keeps you right on the bay and connects you from the connection to the boat launch to the Sweetheart's Bluff. And that type of trail is depicted on the master plan. It's just a little red dotted line, but it's a very like conceptual trail that is separate from the road. And again, other things would move. The marina also is undefined at that point because that's part of the start of that trail is back at the marina. But the internal park trails on the master plan are just walking trails. Not even sure what they're surfaced, but it's just an internal trail network. We already know we have good trails out at Sweetheart's Bluff, rustic trails, the Lake Loop Trail, the Overlook Trails. There's a nice little trail system out there of a couple trails. We would just simply connect you with a shoreline trail. The state trail you're talking about, Steve, the bike trail, Gitchigami Bike Trail, coming from the west, is more or less already connected. It's our northern boundary. When you think about it, we have that running through the park now, down as it dips down under 8th Avenue. That's the Gitchigami Trail. So we're already connected to that right on the edge of town out at the mini storage at the cemetery is where that trail connects and then picks up on the existing stretch in town, right past Bob's house across the street, right? Like that all already comes into the park paralleling Highway 61. The big change this season though is that it'll continue to stay up on the road like it does on the north or on the west side of us. How it's right along there with a little bit of boulevard. And then it dips down under at the corner here and is back in the yards of the campers here below the slope of the highway. Well, this summer, they're going to with the highway project, the turn lane is coming out between us and the folk school. The road is getting narrowed. The parking is going to be established up the hill, and there'll be an extra wide sidewalk / bike trail that'll connect those parking spots, the bike trail to the west. It becomes so there's maybe 2 bike trails flowing past the park, one up at the highway and then the one down here in the backyards of the campers. And that actually touches on the public input project number 3 there with the bike trail up in the Highway 61 corridor. There's been talk about should we redevelop the existing trail space in the park, right? That's that little dip of 3 blocks or 2.5 blocks of trail that's in the backyards of the campers. Back before that trail was there was a double sort of 2 deep, campers 2 deep. And so there's potential there to, we don't need to continue that trail. A lot of people still like that trail. And we could have 2. But trail connectivity is definitely a part of that master plan from connecting the bike trail and the sidewalk of 61 to the park. And right now we only have that little community connection entrance exit. We don't have where it picks up at the marina and parallels the harbor down to the boat launch and then connects through the coastal wetlands out to the Sweetheart's Bluff area.
The community connection is up by the highway, isn't it?
Right. Well, it's the pocket park that is our eastern corner. It's the highway is the top of it, but it also drops down. It's with the timber frame bridges.
So the bike trail would go through the community connection, the landing?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where they merge or combine.
Dave? Dave,
Yeah, Bob.
is there any thought of swinging that bike trail down to the cobblestone beach in addition to heading down in front of the trout toward downtown? Would you want some kind of a arm of that to run down just west of North House toward the beach?
Exactly, Bob, through the community connection. Yeah, that's sort of how it's used now. Like people come off of that trail, come under the bridge, and yeah, they're at the beach, they're at the marina. That's what we're talking about adding on to, like where it ends at the bridge.
I just rode that about an hour ago, and you can come down the bike trail and then not go down the steps to North House, which is good, and then swing down to the beach. But that would be a real attraction for somebody who's just ridden 5 miles, wanting to get to the water and not wanting to go all the way downtown.
That's right. That's right.
And a nice smooth easement, and then some kind of trail or boardwalk, like you said, like Duluth does.
Yeah.
You know, with their pedestrian trail, bike trail, public welcome, access to some kind of restroom facilities would be great.
That's right. And that's always been the vision of the master plan, and kind of the connection corner being the entrance exit and some interpretive signage, but really like a continuing clearly marked trail that takes you, past the marina to the beach.
What do we need to do to move Bob's vision ahead today?
Federal money always helps, like it did in Duluth.
Well, I don't want to jump too far ahead, Steve, but the first suggestion under staff suggestion, right, the idea of updating the master plan and including the marina and other elements necessary for regional significance, that to me is the one to move up, because inside of that process is real capital planning. For if we revisit the master plan and get it up to regional significance, like acceptability for submission to get some legacy money, part of the requirements of that master plan are capital improvement plans, and the continued discussion of what projects are we looking at, what are we likely to fund.
Because the garage is going to be gone, the dog pound is going to be gone, the boat launch is going to be really aesthetic coming down there, the beach, the walkout. You wouldn't have to go downtown. You could stay on the unbusy part of downtown. You wouldn't mess with the trailers. It's really a nice potential down there just to swing right down to the water.
That's right.
Get off your bike and wet your toes a little bit. You got to have a place to use the facilities somewhere along there. But those are all
right.
With the campground.
Yeah. And so
are you saying, Dave, that what we'll do this year, at least early in the year, but this year is to update the master plan and to have some more detail put in there so we can ask for money from elsewhere?
That's right, Steve. That's exactly right. And this has been foreshadowed by City Council. When I met with City Council recently, I believe a month or so ago, I presented the master plan to them in the form of a review and an update. And the discussion was leading towards the idea of revisiting and revising and beefing up the master plan to make it submission, to meet the guidelines of the regional designation requirements. And part of those guidelines is more capital planning inside the master plan. But it also would touch on reaffirming the 2009 visions of new bathhouses and new offices and all these items I list, ball field, all these questions that were left on the table, or all these priorities from the 2009 plan, is, I would say, now or soon is now the time to revisit, revise as needed.
I'm not very excited about getting rid of a baseball field unless I'm confident that there's a big outdoor space for kids and people to run in. Other than that,
that's right, and that's what we need to air out in a new return to the master plan, public planning process.
If you leave Cut Face, which has got a great restroom facility, there is no restroom that's publicly available except our house, and then the bathhouses in the park, and then North House and the Angry Trout, and that's it. All the way to downtown, which is not a very inviting public restroom facility. It's a real chance for a public watering hole, either in that development or somewhere along that trail. Not that they can't stop here, it's just that we're limited in quantity, you know.
Yes. So, well, so yeah, just so we don't get too off track, the master plan visions, they're the big ticket items that are left on that 2009 concept, you know, moving the ball field, marina improvements. I think all of those we should or could revisit when we update the master plan. So we'll just kind of set those aside. The public input stuff is interesting, right? This is what we hear from our guests and from our citizens and from, you know, different interest groups. The Wi-Fi, I couldn't help but improve, you know, list it, even though you know how I feel about that.
How do you feel about that?
How you feel about that?
Unplug and play. You know, we don't promote screen time. We promote, you know, FaceTime. But we're not suffering without it, right? We're full, and there's no park right across the street with it. So I get it. I know when you travel, you just expect it, and it's like this free Wi-Fi comes from the clouds, and you're just happy days because you can watch your favorite shows. But we just have shied away because we've got great cell tower. We've got nobody complaining too loudly about it. We've got a couple folks that really continually bring it up. Seasonals in particular, monthlies that are living here in the summer demand it.
Who are determined to connect can use a hotspot. They don't need Wi-Fi that we organize.
Thank you.
So, Dave,
and that's right.
do you think that Arrowhead would have an interest in beefing up service?
You know, Bob, I looked at that like 3-4 years ago when broadband first came to town. It was yes and no. They want to sell us lots of bandwidth for, you know, lots of money per month. I mean, you were on that board. It's a business for them.
I know.
The pricing at the time was quite frankly out of the question. They wanted, you know, $10 per site per month. So it was, you know, $3,000 a month. Well, this was if we did all 300 sites. But yeah, it was thousands of dollars a month just for the data.
Yeah.
Never mind the network. They're not interested in supplying the network and the routers and the tech support. When we looked into a local contractor that put together a price for that, it was $75,000 for the routers, and maybe they would last 5 years. And the price was a real factor. It was a real reason to say, you know, there's plenty of great internet, Wi-Fi everywhere. We have free Wi-Fi in the office vicinity. I see on any given day, you know, 20 some devices on our office signal. Most of those are seasonals in the neighborhood with boosters. And so because
And there's
of
a lot
that,
of people sitting outside the office as well,
yeah,
trying to get service.
yeah. And you know, again, it's the modern age. I feel like with these Starlink, you know, Wi-Fi from Elon, soon it'll all just be there. And it's tough to invest in a network that's going to be outdated. There's a bit of an aesthetic when it comes to these routers needing to be mounted on poles every 50 feet, because RVs are hard with the tin can or with the metal of the RVs. You can't. It's your phone that has the little amp that doesn't talk back to the router, and it's hard to get enough signal out unless the routers are close to the RVs. And so, believe me, I've looked into this. I've actually got a little bit of an interest in a smaller seasonal neighborhood upgrade that wouldn't be $75,000. And so I've actually asked for a price from a local contractor on a scaled down version of an improved Wi-Fi signal that, you know, covers a little bit bigger area here around the office.
Yeah, I think we can't just, you know, I think we can't just discard the fact that that's something that the public is, you know, would really like to see in our park. So, you know, even if we're going to start with the seasonal and at least get something going for them, that they're there a long time, it's a step in the right direction.
it might be fun when you do your renewals this summer, if you redo the renewal program, to put a question on there. Would you be willing to pay for better Wi-Fi and how much? Just to have that in your pocket for the next couple of years. For the next immediate years, Arrowhead's going to be serving, the whole county, doing their build out. And CenturyLink just did a build out in parallel, also on a grant. But when they're done doing that, they'll be looking, and they might be amenable a couple of years down the pike if you had some sense of what your population was willing to pay. Would you
Are
pay
you
more for
looking
it?
for action from us today, Dave, or are you going to bring us a motion that we might consider for next month?
I don't have anything on for Wi-Fi. I don't have any actions.
I don't mean Wi-Fi, but I mean the capital planning and the master planning and all that stuff.
No, I think it's up to you all. I mean, this is just open discussion right now. I'm just running down the wish list. And if you all want to list our priorities at the end of this, you're certainly welcome to do that. We don't need to in any urgent sense of like no action tonight, just a general review and discussion of our capital projects.
Dave, boat
I'd be
launch
delighted if when we get to the master plan that we had either a plan to getting rid of the ballpark or had a chance to sit down and look at the map and all those things and think about the question in an orderly way. And that's a whole lot easier to do when we're meeting in person than it is when we're doing it this way.
Dave, the boat launch is bonded money, is it not?
Yeah, $2 million municipal bonds covers the breakwater for this summer. However, it's probably not enough to complete the parking lot, but the DNR has pledged boater access funds towards that.
So Bach and Eklund would have no interest in additional bonding, but legacy money then for this next trail development. And I can tell you the Gitche board would be delighted to work with you in partnership on that. That kind of collaborative stuff sells really well.
That's right. And that again is always going back to the idea of let's update our master plan.
Yeah.
But I'll quickly sum up the rest from the public. The fish cleaning station and the picnic pavilion idea down at the marinas come back up. It's a good idea. The fish cleaning stations, is what it is. It serves its purpose. But in the past years, you've seen how the charter boats set up like a tent, like an event tent structure down there. It's just a seasonal tent. It usually gets the heck blown out of it with how windy it is down there. And so every time it blows apart, the folks who own it and the charter boats ask me, like, can we just build a nice, real little pavilion down there, like a very small picnic, timber frame, match the bridge, maybe incorporate it in with the fish cleaning. That's that idea where we're, in the marina, we could do a little pavilion fish cleaning station. Again, we could reaffirm that in the master plan when we really look at the marina. More docks, that's the same idea. It's going to take master planning. The bike trail we talked about. Boulder Park improvements, that's across the bay. That's once the boat launch is no longer the parking lot needed for the boat launch down in Boulder. Lots of energy around that space. Not just Boulder Park, which is the little pocket park across from Sydney's, but the whole point. The city owns the parking lot. And once the boat launch is officially over here in the park, all that space is up for planning and visioning, and that's a much bigger project, but certainly should stay on the list, similar to the Sawtooth Bluffs deal, right? They're properties outside the park, but they're city parkland that deserves development and planning someday. Disc golf course we talked about briefly with Paul, but is it a priority? And if so, we're pretty sure it's not going to fit at the golf course. Where else could it go? Just a rhetorical question right now. But yeah, finally on to my suggestions or staff suggestions. Master plan update would solve a lot of these answers. It would take time. It would take time and money and meetings and be a very thoughtful, deliberate public planning process. The and that could the same be said for the Boulder Park Coast Guard area. I think those are two separate plans. We certainly heard that from the legacy funding folks when we did the initial application. I asked, like, should we include all of our parks as like the City of Grand Marais Parks District, or should we just do the campground and the marina? And they said, just do the campground and the marina. That's what makes you regionally significant. Boulder Park is a very fine city park and very worthy of planning, but it wouldn't be included in the rec park master plan. It seems to be a separate planning process. Marina improvements, this is a kind of low-hanging fruit, maybe the idea of moving the fuel to the A dock, right? Like currently the fuel dock is at the end of the channel, the narrow, shallow part. The pump is vintage 80s. All of this, I feel like I'm pretty close to just going ahead and getting some pricing on what it would take to get a new fuel pump, move it to the east to the A dock, and be able to service larger boats, safer and more easily on the eastern edge of the marina. The new entrance sign is certainly on the horizon, not this season, but next. That's, I think, a smaller, like 5-figure project. It's just kind of an artsy, crafty design initially, but we could really do ourselves some justice with a new entrance sign. And then this came up last season. Harbor Park is celebrating its 15-year anniversary this year. And for better or worse, the shrubbery and the gardens are looking 15 years old. There's a lot of dead, there's a lot of weeds, and we continue to do some maintenance there annually, but the time is approaching where there's going to be a need for a comprehensive, $15,000 to $30,000 redo down there. So, yeah, I know this is a lot of information at once, and I don't expect you all to need to make any hard decisions tonight. It's really a FYI right now.
Yeah, I'm happy with the staff suggestions. I think maybe the thing to do with that, the request for the building, is send the people who wanted to talk to the folks at North House to get them to sponsor a class to build the thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe it comes in much less expensive that way.
That's right, Steve. We just had that with our picnic shelters in Sweethearts Bluff. That was a North House project. It was like, not that bad. $5,000 for the shelters, $5,000 for the roofs. That was for 2 of them. But yeah, that's the kind of the scale of the size of things. So we feel like, yeah, we could do a nice fish house with a pavilion for, 5 or 10. I'm not sure where they're at with those classes, but I know that's how the bridge was created as well.
Well, that sounds certainly doable to me. It sounds to me like if there's decisions that we need to make in a formal way, that we would need some kind of a motion or budget for this year, that you would want us for capital expenditures this year and planning, to the extent that we need to make some decision. We would probably need some precision on whatever it is we know.
Yeah, so this year is pretty full. We're busy with the boat launch and the highway, and we're going to not need anything immediately. I think it's just more or less an affirmation of our priorities up top, and I think maybe moving up this idea of a master plan redo into those priorities would be the only thing I would recommend tonight. Is kind of a thumbs up on what we've got listed up top, with the addition of the master plan redo.
Dave, when do we have to have a new entrance sign?
Not this season, but whenever. Or, do we need one? I don't know. Yes, no, maybe.
But we don't need to wait for this season.
I was thinking of putting up because what we had was, I thought, pretty good. And I've already talked about a temporary, just staging that up on the corner this season.
That would look good in timber frame too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Good.
You could just grab the one from our old B&B and transplant it. It's a nice structure.
Okay, any other questions about that? The improvement planning, I think we've.
Yeah, I don't need any motion. I think it's just all kind of thumbs up on what we've talked about.
So we'll move on.
Any new ideas? That's right. How about anything new? Let's get blue sky on this one. What else are we missing?
Dave, I just rode all the paths in the campground in preparation for this meeting. I was impressed by the number of waterways that you had referenced and the risk for flooding and water damage. There are what?
What I'm hoping you can do
through there?
is to have the energy of the guy who wants to do disc golf prod the county and the city people, whoever need to think about it, and maybe to keep the ball rolling rather than just have it die. And
I got you, Steve. I got you. What were you saying, Bob, about the creek there, though? That thing's flowing, isn't it?
There are, 3 waterways that run through?
A good 2 that I know of.
I was watching, well, and then the one that runs, isn't there one under Honeymoon? Up in Honeymoon, isn't that another waterway up there?
Yeah, it might be flowing right now, but it's quite seasonal. Yeah.
And just managing that water should be part of your comp plan.
It is. It's in the master plan. You know, there's goals that talk about that. And then this also talks or speaks to the 8th Avenue storm pond redo that we talked about last month. That's the biggest, most effective management we can do, is to slow the release of the stormwater down that main channel here. And so we're certainly aware of that. I did have an update from Soil and Water, though, that they may not occur this season. Of course, we wouldn't mind because of everything else going on. But yeah, the stormwater, 8th Avenue stormwater pond would really is what we need to help with the seasonal stormwater situation. And that's likely next season going to be fixed.
I have one other thought about the long-term future, and that is all I know about the Sawtooth Bluff place is that I drive by the water tower. At some point, it would be good for our board to take a look at what people have in mind for it, because that was done when most of us weren't on the board, I think. And maybe to take a little field trip and walk around on it and get some sense of what it's like. Maybe late season, you know, September, October, something like that.
Let me see if I'll see how good I am with this chat button, and I'll drop the link to the plan into chat right now. Just stand by or talk amongst yourselves.
If I were a kid in that park, I'd be in those little streams, splashing around. It's
I
beautiful.
think some of them do. The one that comes out down by the lake, you'll see them in there all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I was looking at it and I stayed out of it because I had this meeting, but otherwise I'd be in there. I would dam it up and flood the neighbors. That's what I'd be doing right down there. Yeah.
That sounds like something a young man would do.
Oh yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Well, we could always use your body to dam it up, partly,
Yeah, you bet.
if you're really that committed to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just pasted the link to the Sawtooth Bluffs plan into the chat tab there. You can click on that at your leisure. It's also a list. I went to the city website to find it.
I don't have any idea how I'm going to do that.
Well, that'll give you something to work on tonight, Steve.
Yeah, there you go.
I may not actually. I'm of an age where I like my handheld when it comes to technical things.
I could mail you a copy.
Yeah, that would, or you could email me a digital version of it. That would be the easiest way.
That'll do.
This chat will take me minutes that I don't want to spend, if that's all right.
No problem. I'll send you the email.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to.
Be thinking about when we're going to have our first golf round together. It could be May 1st, if they open then.
First, I relearned how to swing a club. Then I relearned the etiquette of the game. Then I sign up for my annual membership. Then I go up and hit 5,000 golf balls. Then we talk. Then we do the single malt scotch.
You know what? I'm a much better person to be with than most other golfers because I'm not judgmental, and I'm happy to let you learn as we go. And the scotch, of course, helps.
I'm going to
Well,
bring
it sounds like you two need to connect after the meeting and get together and figure that one out. Sounds like
my brother up here, who is a very offensive golfer and objects to everything. Yeah.
Okay, Dave, do you
For a motion to adjourn.
No, we still got a little more parks report, Steve. I got to touch on the last few items I sent across this noon time.
Oh,
Let me just grab that. All right. So wrapping things up with the park report, we got the seasonal staff update. Recall letters were sent out last month. We had 17 employees that served last season. They all had the right to be recalled as it's a union position. Good news, we got 12 yeses. So bad news is we got 5 openings minimum. These are throughout all positions. We're looking for a golf clubhouse attendant was our most recent surprise, where our full-timer up there is not going to be returning. So I would say of all these positions, our most pressing would be the clubhouse attendant. That could be a full-time position. And then the park custodian, one of our key custodians, a veteran of multiple years, moved out of the region, will not be back. And this is definitely a big issue for us. We do have the maintenance workers that are scheduled and able to clean, and that's going to be obviously plan B. If we're unable to hire this position, we'll be able to adjust our team and get folks in there that are, lawn mowers that'll become cleaners, because the priority is on the bathhouse cleaning. And so, yeah, we're really, really looking for good help this summer.
Still have the couple from Silver Bay?
Yeah, Silver Bay crew's coming back. They're up in Finland now. They've moved out of the city, but yeah, and they're the Thursday through Sunday MVPs.
Right.
And so we do have the weekends covered with excellent cleaners, custodians, and we got great seasonal maintenance people coming as well, veterans of the force there as well, who started out as cleaners. So we do have some depth, which is great, but we do have some openings. We've got very few applicants. We've been pretty actively promoting these positions in the last month. We've taken out ads on the News Herald. It's on Boreal, the city website, the city newsletters. My weekly newsletters to department heads and city councilors this has been my theme for the last month, is send them our way. Anybody that's looking for a good summer job, they're all listed on the city website there. So, decent starting pay on these, $14.60 an hour, pretty much across. The clubhouse pays a little bit less. It must be a little bit easier, but yeah, easy, flexible scheduling, nights, weekends. We make it easy. We make it fun. So
the obvious issue is housing for people. That's a tough one.
Well, we would even be
on. Where do I sign up?
City website. And we're flexible housing wise. If you got a trailer, we might have a spot.
I was going to say, is that an option for people? So
that's how we've been able to have such a great golf superintendent.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So send them in. A couple other items here. We got the spring in the air. March was like a record month for campers. It was like 50s on the weekends, 60s in the cities. And so all month we saw campers coming up for the weekends, especially made, close to, I think, $1,000 or so on camping in March. And certainly now the phone's ringing off the hook. Are we open yet? When are we open? Can we come? We're coming this weekend. Like the trend, the huge indicators of busyness and success coming this season. And we're already open. We just don't have the water on yet. The porta potties down by the fish cleaning station. Most everybody's staying down on that front row by the marina anyway. And yeah, guests every weekend. 15 a night for electric, 8 for rustic. We got the night drop box going on the front porch. That's been the best way for getting folks with the self-registration station. The other bit of news here, the girls softball season was scheduled to begin this Thursday. We all looked at the forecast today. I just got word from the high school. It's been rescheduled, postponed, no surprise. Every time we try to do this in April, the first 2 weeks get canceled or postponed. But so no Lady Vikings taking the rec field this Thursday. But they've got a good number of games lined up. I think 9 games scheduled over the next 2 months, mostly on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:00. So when you hear the ping and you're cheering, it's the Lady Vikes. Just hope the weather cooperates.
Right.
And then finally, I'll just brief you on what we're planning for May, as we won't meet until the 4th. Of May is the first Tuesday, and so we'll already be open for business starting Saturday the 1st of May is our season opener for water and bathhouses and 7 days a week service. We've been spending quite a bit of time going through the COVID guidelines. There's been slight changes from the state. Mid-March, there was a new revision to the campground guidelines. Very little change. Like, for example, the hand dryers that were not allowed last season are allowed again. Internally, we like the towels. We think, who doesn't, you know? So even though hand dryers could be back, we are likely to continue to keep them offline and to offer the paper towels, because they're more sanitary. They don't spread the germs like the stirred up air, and guests like them, and they're not too terribly expensive. So that's a little bit of what would change this season in the bathhouses. I don't think anything. You're still going to have to mask up. We're still going to limit numbers inside to 3 per side. There's some, if it's all one family, they can all go in. Yeah, well, we're not going to get into too much fine print. But the word from public health and from the state is not a lot of change in your COVID plans. You're still going to mask up. You're still going to keep your distance, sanitizing, lots of signage, occupancy limits on indoor space. Our campsite spacing is more than adequate now. They took out a lot of the measuring, like 50 feet from the center line type of measuring that was in the guidance last spring. Now it's just social distance between the sites, 6 feet between the sites. So we certainly have that. We'll be offering all of our sites will be back online. Bathhouses, we'll be opening Bathhouse 2 again, the little one here south of us. That's more likely a one family at a time sign in that bathhouse, because it's just a very small bathhouse. But as usual in May, we don't open all our bathhouses right away on the 1st. We don't have the demand. They're not insulated buildings, so we don't like wasting resources. We'll open Bathhouse 1 and 4 as they're in the popular sections of the park, and then 2 and 3 will get added on by Memorial Day weekend. Those 2 will be added in. And so the rec hall will be open again for groups of 25 or less. Groups that will be renting the rec hall will be required to submit a COVID preparedness plan, the basic plan talking about distance and masks and sanitizing. We do see some action there over Memorial Day weekend for high school graduations. So we were already reaching out to those families to make sure they got their COVID plan in place. And then the final kind of back and forth with Sam and Aaron is the park office, and whether or not we open up the office for inside service. And why would we is the question. It's, we did very well last season with it closed, except for the shouting through the plexiglass barrier. And so we'll see. I think for the short run, for May, early May especially, we'll keep it closed. It's cold outside.
Were people able to deal with you inside the clubhouse when they were outside somehow?
Sure. Yeah, it worked really well up at the golf course. They had that same idea of a service window, and I think they loved that. I'm not sure, and so Paul and I haven't confirmed like clubhouse opening either, but the initial feeling is let's keep it closed in May. It's slow. We're not busy. There's no need to be open in May for inside service. It gives us time to monitor the trends in the vaccine. Guidance from the state may change over the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And so because it's so slow in May, especially the first couple of weeks, the plan for the office is to continue with the window service and the door service, with the idea that we adjust, that once we get busy and once hopefully trending, cases are down and vaccines are up, that we can finally return to inside service for like busy season, June, July, August. But I think it's best right now, it's on the side of caution and convenience, that we keep the park office closed at least initially in May. And this would be a good decision to revisit at that May 4th park board meeting.
Okay.
So I was wondering about the $15 a night that you're charging. That seems very reasonable.
That's right, Frankie. It's the off-season rate. Once bathhouses open and water's turned on, that rate goes away. It becomes, $45 a night. And so this has historically just been our electric, obviously they're not using $15 worth of electric when they're here. So we are recovering more than enough from the use of the site. And it's a very obscure old rate from yesteryear when no one really camped here in the off season. And that's where it's just continued to carry over. We haven't adjusted this rate in the 15 years that I've been here, but honestly, we've never really sold it either until now.
Well, as long as you don't think you could make anything more than that, well, you might as well leave it there.
I think we could. I think that's a good point, Frankie. Maybe when we look at rates this fall, we go to 20, or 25 for the off-season rate. It's good for now because we're almost done with it. But yeah, if we want to adjust this, let's do it in the fall.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Oh, good. I almost forgot old business though, right? We got to look at that.
I would have kept it on there. I would have kept on the caribou there.
Let me see it now.
I have to look at them again.
I hope it's still up. And this like present now button is just not easy. I just don't know why it's got to be so hard. Here we go. Ta-da. See it?
Okay, now it's better. Now that I understand what you're trying to show us here. Ooh, he looks so sad, but he's cool.
It's quite an image, isn't it? It's quite provocative. I know. It's Corey Steckelberg is the artist, and she's known for this. I don't know. Did it go away now?
No, it's still there on mine.
Oh, good.
I can't see it. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. I know what it looks like.
I know. I don't know why I'm on like a split screen now where it says I'm presenting to everyone, but I'm not seeing what I'm presenting. But I'll just keep the photo up. I feel like now you're definitely seeing it.
So Dave, is she just doing the one? I thought she was doing 3 or
3 is the count, Rita. You're right. She initially, when she looked at this 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, she had 5 on the table. We approved the placement of 5 of these around the park spaces like Harbor Park,
right.
Boulder Park, Library, Rec Park, out in Sweethearts Bluff. Now, she since scaled back to 3 of these.
Okay.
Locations are still to be determined. Corey and I are right now in the process of like final placement. Where actually are we thinking? It's still in that realm of like Harbor Park, Library area, maybe Community Connection corner, maybe across the street here, like up on the hillside by the old pool building, maybe out back in Sweethearts Bluff. But yeah, there's definitely some like installation logistics. These things look to be like rebar type, like the legs of these are steel rebar, and she's thinking of extending those legs and giving it, so we just pound like 2 or 3 feet of rebar into the ground to keep these things fixed. We're obviously going to have to call for locates if that's the case, and if we're in busy utility areas. And
what about? Oh, sorry, Dave. I was going to say, what about putting one over by the area right now where the bridge is going over by the folk school or something? That's a pretty area. A lot of people, a lot of traffic there.
Exactly. You bet, Rita. The connection corner, we already have that fine piece of like the cherry blossom sculpture over there. That's really nice and kind of found, in the back corner. And so maybe that's a great chance to share that space with this beast. And so
he's really. I would hope that kids would not mess with them. That would be my concern. And of course, anchoring it in the ground. It sounds like she's working on that, but.
Yes.
Cool. Could be really neat. I'm anxious to see it with the plants growing on it.
Yes, we all are. And so I've just met with Corey this week. We'll be finalizing placement this month, and she hopes to get them out, early May, late April, early May is really, we should know more about this in a month and have those in place for this summer. And I think most of it is, do you want them front and center? Do you want them tucked away? Maybe a little of both. The idea is they live on the land and they get touched and prodded and picked at, and the birds land on them. And it's an exciting like active art that's out in the wild, and we're not sure how they're going to turn out. But I'm excited. Corey's excited. I just wanted to get you all excited.
Yep, that's pretty. She's doing some really good work on it. Really, really nice work.
Good.
We'll really get excited when we take a tour of the installed animals.
That's right. And they'll be interpretive. Like, she's doing this through the state arts grant that, has some guidelines. She's got to follow up. She's got to do a report. I believe she's doing like pictures of them as they evolve. And then she'll be visiting them almost daily, I think, initially, to water in the seeds and keep the seeds watered. She'll be like very actively like monitoring these and taking pictures and recording them. That'll be on a website that we're thinking we can have like a little QR code and then a web address that's accompanying these, so people can find out more about them if they choose to.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Is there any other new business? Anybody have anything? Nope. I think that about does it for today.
Well, that's a good hour and a half. Thank you all.
Computer.
But
What's that,
Steve,
Steve?
Good night.
good night.
And I'm sorry, I don't have a picture, but
Well, we could hear you, so that's good, Frankie. We know you're there.
okay.
Everybody take care.
All right, Rita, adjourn the meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Happy spring, everyone. Enjoy the nice weather.